Talk-12. The Search for God. Let the audience remain attentive to this conversation between the Guru and disciple, in which pure knowledge is made very simple to understand by way of listening. An entire lifetime will not suffice for a search for God in the scriptures. Whatever the sages and saints have expounded, I shall tell you now in brief. Please listen attentively. If you want to investigate about who is the greatest God, you will have to meet that God. It is not possible to come to a decision only on the strength of your opinion. It is also not possible to come to a decision after reading all of the scriptures. By trying to make a determination this way, only doubts arise as to which holy place is the holiest. In the eulogy of the deity Jagannath, it is said that if one does not go to get a glimpse of Jagannath, one's life is an utter waste. What to do in such a situation? Is there a single human being who has visited all the holy places in the world? All the various holy places and penances and charities are for the sake of only knowing the one God. These are all strenuous efforts to know God. There are many isms and various opinions about this God. Who is this God and how to find him? There are many methods of worship prevalent in this world. A man keeps his mind steady on the method he likes. There are numerous gods, and devotees have stuck to their God in accordance with their own will. When one takes into consideration all of this, one cannot decide who the real God is. Lord Krishna has said in chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita that those who do not deliberate on this, do not inquire into this situation, are but beasts. Scriptures and the learned men have not come to a decision as to who the real God is. There are contradictory statements in all of the various traditions, and whichever tradition is acceptable to people, they hold on to that with pride. People get involved with many gods because of this sort of situation. According to them, the greatness of God lies in the fact that God cannot be found. There are many who have resolved that they will never find God, and hence for them, God has remained aloof. Then for what purpose are all of one's efforts and yoga and sacrifice? If one can find God, then the problem arises as to what one should do in order to find him. But before a question like this arises, one must at least know whom to call God. In everyday life, one must first identify an object and then ask for details about it. The same is also true in the case of God. We must ask how to know him. I will now tell you whom we should call God. God is not the idol in the temple, but the one who manages the affairs of the whole world. The one who sustains the activity of the whole world. The one who is the doer of all, and who is omnipotent, is named as God. He performs all actions like moving the eyelids, seeing through the eyes, everything. The moving is that through which he moves, and the inanimate is that in which he lies dormant. The moon owes its coolness and the sun its radiance only to him. It is only him who enjoys all grandeur. This body is perishable, so that means that it is non-God, even though God resides in the body. Only as long as God is in the body is there glory. When the Lord sleeps, it means that he rests and the whole world disappears. When consciousness stirs, the wind as vayu is produced. When wind undergoes friction, light and fire are formed. All of these elements originate in the Lord, and it is only later on that they get various names, such as the sun or air. This means that it is we who have given nature its various names. In fact, there is no east or west, no above nor below. All these names are only concepts which we have conceived for our own convenience. He is God who has created the gross, subtle, and the causal. It is said that a tree on which Brahma was seated came out of Lord Vishnu's navel, and afterwards Vishnu started walking. This symbolizes that the inner mind or consciousness that is self-sprouted, and afterwards the intellect was born. Even after doing all of this, God is without limbs or parts. And this means that he is doing everything even though he has no limbs. For example, in the dream you can go on walking for hundreds of miles. Do you walk in the dream with the feet you have in the waking state? Even Brahma and the other gods do not know this God. This means that neither consciousness nor intellect nor ignorance know this one God. It also means that they can never know him. However, the saints know how he works. Thus, by taking refuge in saints and sages, one can know God. There is the vital life energy of consciousness, and when it flows, wind is created. And this wind or vayu is consciousness. All the elements are born from the existence, consciousness, and bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. The friction energy of wind has become the sun, and the coolness of vayu has become water. But all is consciousness. This earth has come into being with the help of fire and water, and it is from the earth that all beings are born. People build a temple, and in that temple they install an idol representing God. And they believe that the idol has some power. Therefore, they bow down to that God. Actually, God resides in the temple, which is in the form of the body. That life energy of consciousness, which exists in the body, is God. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, I live in every being's heart. That which every being calls I, that I am, is me. Give up all other duties and take refuge in me, who resides in the hearts of all. I am not this gross body. So he also tells Arjuna, if you go to those who know me, or those who are taken to be of my nature, you will meet me. For the life consciousness, the life energy is God. For one who worships it, God is easily found. So says Krishna. This earth is God's creation, but people who have not received any knowledge from the Sadguru worship instead focus on things like wood and stone idols, which are created from the womb of this earth. God is imperishable, and yet people take perishable things to be God. People are immersed in ignorance, that when they bow only to themselves. While permeating everything, the Creator is different from what is created. Saint Tukaram has said that even a learned man who expounds upon mythological books and scriptures does not know about himself, about who he is. That which makes known whatever is unknown is called knowledge. If one carries out an introspective search, one will understand oneself and all creation. But one never bothers to search, to practice self-inquiry. Since one has not tried to understand God, one cannot find him. Avidya means literally not knowledge or ignorance. It is a perverse thought to accept this world as true and then to think of God. This is due to ignorance. A wise man thinks differently. The seer and the seen are two entities. Hence the Vedas say that the seen is illusion, that the seer is the self, that the Supreme Self, Param Atman, is beyond concepts of the real and the unreal. And the Param Atman, the Supreme Self, is Paramashvara, the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the perishable God. The world is untrue, and the Self is true. The One, prior to both of these, is Param Atman, and He alone is to be called God. Earth, water, fire, wind, and space, all the five elements are not God. People who say God came and went away, and He was born and then died, are deluded, and their delusion has no limit. How is it possible for God, who has neither birth nor death, nor the knowledge of it, and who is beyond birth and death, to be born or die? Birth and death are characteristics of the body. Hunger and thirst are characteristics of prana. And pain and pleasure are characteristics of the mind. But you are Shiva, God, beyond these six characteristics. The body will perish, and the gross world is also perishable. All that is imagined is found only in the world appearance. when there is not even the slightest feeling of separation between you and God, then you are that. Here there is no imagination whatsoever. There is no sense that I am God, nor is there a feeling like I am Shiva. Some say that as the doer can be found in action, the self can be also found in this world. Dualists make the assertion that this world has come out of Brahman and lives by virtue of it alone. So it must be residing only in Brahman. This is the reason that the dualistic notions of Brahman and Maya came to stay. Neither Brahman nor Maya have any beginning. Maya has been created out of Brahman. Yet as soon as Maya approaches Brahman, Maya disappears. If one says that the world enters or disappears into Brahman, then Brahman will have a hole in it. But it is not so, nor is there any burden of the world on Brahman. This Maya, this illusion, appears in Brahman, but it is not in Brahman. It is like the appearance of a reflection in a mirror. You can say your clothes are dried by the sun, yet the sun did not come and dry them for you. There are 100 pitchers full of water on a terrace, and there are 100 reflections of the sun. Does it mean that there are 100 suns? So even when the sun, in the form of hundreds of rays, dries your clothes, it will never get caught up in the clothes. In the same way, even though the self is in the body and is doing all actions, Atman is not in the actions. If you look into your inner self, you will find it in your own heart. Rishikesha means one who stays in the heart. Realize that, then you will reach the highest God. To know that is the state of liberation.